Hello, today is a Sunday, February 2nd, 2025. I'm sitting at a desk in my dorm in Seoul. I'm back from my Gwangju trip. I had a good time with my family and acquaintances and family members over the new lunar year holiday. 恭喜发财 if you are Chinese. Happy New Year to everyone who follows the lunar new year. Korea is number one in celebrating a new lunar new year. So I spent about 8 days with the family and family members, and I'm back. I drove back to Seoul with a lot of goods, clothes, utensils, all the necessities to live comfortably in my one-room studio, which is a dorm offered by my company KT Korea Telecom, the number one carrier in Korea. The room is free, about 500,000 won. That's about $400 per month. But I need to pay for the management and utility fees, whose amount is fixed at 25만 won. That's about $200 per month. I can afford to pay $200 to live in Seoul in this comfortable one-room studio. There are about 100 people, 100 employees, or 200 employees in this building, which is about 16 story high, 16 stories high. So I guess there are more than about 200 or 300 employees living in this building dormitory. It is located in Oryudong, and I'm going to read this article for you. Recently, today, Canada, Mexico, and China, they were announced, they were given the ultimatum that they will be levied, or they would face 25% tariff. China 10%. But remember, the China faces 25% tariff already, so for them it's a 35% tariff. And they were talking about excise tax, right? Excise tax. That's a specific tax on alcohol, tobacco, or some other narrow range of products that each country feel unnecessary items, right? Like tobacco, firearms, gasoline vehicles, luxurious vehicles, and so on. So let's find out what excise tax means. And I just chose this article, right? I never read this article before, but Investopia is my favorite. They offer interesting explanations for all the words or glossaries about the financial or investment businesses. So, and also for folks who don't know why I read this article, I just decided to read an English article on a daily basis of 20 to 30 minutes length so that I could practice English. As I am a non-native speaker, I am pure Korean, but I like English, right? So I like enjoying reading English article every day. And in due time, I have to retire from my company KT, the number one carrier in Korea. If you do have a job opportunity for me, hey, don't hesitate. I'm all ears. Yep, I would be interested in going to the USA or Canada or Australia, New Zealand, the UK or the Europe or Singapore, where English is spoken, right? I can speak like HSK 3 level Chinese too. I'm interested in Chinese too. I learned German in my high school, but I forgot all about it. Even though after 1 year study, probably I could be on the par with people who can speak German, right? Just let's cut the shit and read this article so that we could be more knowledgeable about tax and trade war and tariffs. Excise tax, what it is and how it works, with examples by Julia Kagan, updated June 25th, 2024. Reviewed by Samantha Silverstein. Fact-checked by Vicky Velasquez. What is an excise tax? An excise tax is a legislated tax on specific goods or services at the time they are purchased. Right? At the time they are purchased. Legislated tax is not a tax that is given on a whim, but is approved by either Congress or the administration, or Trump in this case. They are international taxes imposed within a government infrastructure rather than international taxes imposed across country borders, right? It's not international taxes imposed across country borders. A federal excise tax is usually collected from motor fuel sales, airline tickets, tobacco, and other goods and services. They are international taxes imposed within a government infrastructure rather than international taxes imposed across country borders. A federal excise tax is usually collected from motor fuel sales, airline tickets, tobacco, and other goods and services. Key takeaways. Excise taxes are taxes levied on specific goods or services like fuel, tobacco, and alcohol. They are primarily taxes that must be paid by businesses, usually increasing prices for consumers indirectly. Excise taxes can be ad valorem, paid by percentage, or specific cost charged by unit, right? Ad valorem, paid by percentage. Ad valorem, paid by percentage. Ad valorem, paid by percentage. Some excise taxes can be required directly from the consumer, like property taxes and excise tax penalties on certain retirement account activities. Wow, right? Usually it's levied on businesses. But some excise taxes can be required directly from the consumer, like property taxes and excise tax penalties on certain retirement account activities. Excise tax, a legislated tax on specific goods and services at purchase, such as fuel, tobacco, and alcohol. How an excise tax works. Excise taxes are primarily for businesses. Many of them are paid by merchants, who then pass the tax on to consumers through higher prices. Merchants pay excise taxes to wholesalers and consider them in product pricing, which increases the retail price overall. And consider them in product pricing, right? Merchants pay excise taxes to wholesalers. Merchants here, like retailers, right? So retailers pay excise taxes to wholesalers and consider them in product pricing, which increases the retail price overall. As such, Consumers may or may not see the cost of most excise taxes directly, but there are some excise taxes that are paid directly by consumers, including property taxes and levies on certain retirement account activities. Certain retirement account activities, right? Retirement account activities. Federal, state, and local governments have the authority to institute excise taxes. While income tax is the primary revenue generator for federal and state governments, excise tax revenue also makes up a small portion of total revenue. Federal, state, and local governments have the authority, so all have the authority to institute excise taxes, to officiate, right? To announce excise taxes or to enforce or to perpetuate excise taxes, institute excise taxes. While income tax is the primary revenue generator for federal and state governments, excise tax revenue also makes up a small portion of total revenue. Excise taxes are primarily business taxes. That's the key point, right? The Trump announced the 25% tariffs on all the products coming from Canada or Mexico or China. So that means the importer or exporter, either of them has to pay for the excise taxes, and then they will translate to retail pricing, right? Increased. The businesses charging, they are separate from other taxes that corporations must pay, such as income taxes. Businesses charging and receiving excise taxes are required to file Form 720 federal excise tax return on a quarterly basis and include quarterly payments. Business collectors of excise taxes must also maintain their obligations for passing on excise taxes to state and local governments as required. Merchants may be allowed deductions or credits on their annual income tax returns related to excise tax payments. Okay, so merchants may be allowed deductions or credits on their annual income tax returns related to excise tax payments. So they can get refund. They can get a refund on excise tax. So the excise tax is primarily business taxes, right? Businesses has to pay excise taxes on a quarterly basis. Excise taxes can fall into one of two categories: ad valorem taxes and specific taxes. Ad valorem taxes, excise taxes, there are fixed percentage rates assessed on particular goods or services, right? Ad valorem taxes. Excise taxes, there are fixed percentage rates assessed on particular goods or services. Specific taxes, excise taxes of a fixed dollar amount applied to certain purchases. Specific taxes, ad valorem taxes. In some cases, governments levy excise taxes on goods that have a high social cost, such as cigarettes and alcohol. These types of excise taxes, I think this is a typo, right? These taxes, These types of excise taxes are sometimes called sin taxes. Sin taxes, right? Sin taxes. Let's remember the word sin taxes. Because the good being taxed has a reputation for being sinful or with negative consequences associated with it. Fast fact. The largest revenue producing excise taxes in the US come from motor fuel, airline tickets, tobacco, alcohol, health related goods, and health related services. Ad valorem excise taxes. Ad valorem is a Latin phrase that literally means according to value. An ad valorem, according to the value, an ad valorem tax is charged on a percentage basis. charged on a percentage basis. Charged on a percentage basis. This results in an excise tax that is based on the value of the product or service. For example, an Internal Revenue Service (IRS) levies a 10% excise tax on indoor tanning services. This means that if a tanning salon charges $100 for a tanning session, it must pay the IRS $10 in excise tax. Wow, a tanning session. Other types of ad valorem excise taxes include firearms 10%, airline tickets 7.5%, and heavy trucks 12%. Property taxes can also be considered a type of ad valorem excise tax. Okay, property taxes. Specific excise taxes. Specific excise taxes are a set of tax or fee added to a certain product on a per unit basis. Some examples of federal specific excise taxes as of October 2023 include small cigarettes, $1.01 per pack of 20, pipe tobacco, $2.83 per pound, beer, $3.5 for the first 60,000 barrels, cruise ship passengers, $3 per passenger, and gasoline, $0.183 per gallon. Sin taxes on targeted goods like beer and alcohol will often be taxed at the federal level and also taxed again by the state, making the cost of these items higher. For example, New York has a specific excise tax of $4.35 per cigarette pack of 20. Right? Let's remember this word. That's good expression. Cigarette pack of 20. Combining this with a federal tax of $0.01 makes the excise taxes alone $536. These taxes have a considerable impact on the consumer. Tip: the IRS provides guideline on excise taxes in publication 510. Excise taxes on retirement accounts. Excise taxes are also charged on some retirement account activities. Many people are familiar with these taxes as penalties. A 6% excise tax is applied to excess individual retirement account, IRA, right? Individual retirement account contributions that are not corrected by the applicable deadline. Many people are familiar with these taxes as penalties. A 6% excise tax is applied to excess individual retirement account contributions that are not corrected by the applicable deadline. A 10% excise tax penalty applies to distributions from certain IRS and other qualified plans when an investor makes withdrawals before age 59 and a half. Also, a 25% excise tax penalty is charged when investors do not take the mandatory required minimum distributions, RMDs, from certain retirement accounts, though this tax is reduced to 10% if the missed distribution is taken before the end of the correction window. The correction window starts on the date the penalty is imposed, usually January 1st, after the year you missed the distribution. Complicated. Also, a 25% excise tax penalty is charged when investors do not take the mandatory required minimum distributions, RMDs, from certain retirement accounts, though this tax is reduced to 10% if the missed distribution is taken before the end of the correction window. The correction window, right? Correction window. The correction window. Before the end of the correction window. The correction window starts on the date the penalty is imposed, usually January 1st, after the year you missed the distribution. The window ends on the earliest of the date the penalty is assessed by the IRS. The date the IRS, Yeah, I have a problem with pronouncing S. The date the IRS sends a notice of deficiency, the last day of the second taxable year after the penalty is imposed. Note, as of January 1st, 2023, RMDs are mandatory starting at age 73 for owners of traditional IRA accounts and several other tax-deferred retirement savings plans. Who pays excise taxes? Excise taxes are imposed on certain goods and services, such as gasoline and alcohol. These taxes are paid directly by businesses. This tax is often passed on to the consumer, who may or may not be aware that they are paying it to the merchant because it is included in the price. This is common in the fuel industry, where companies charge excise taxes through the price you pay at the pump. Right? You pay at the pump. Cliche. What is a federal excise tax? A federal excise tax is charged on certain goods and services by the federal government. It may or may not be included by the merchant into the price. This means that consumers don't pay these taxes directly as they would any other type of tax, such as income taxes. Federal excise taxes are commonly imposed on things like fuel, airline tickets, tobacco, and alcohol. Right? This means that consumers don't pay these taxes directly as they would any other type of tax, such as income taxes. How is an excise tax different from sales tax? Excise and sales taxes are two different types of taxes. An excise tax is imposed on specific goods and is generally the responsibility of the merchant to pay to the government. The merchant in turn may or may not pass the tax on to the consumer by adding it into the price. A sales tax, on the other hand, is charged on almost everything and is collected from the consumer by the merchant who passes it on to the government. The sales tax is a percentage of the price of the good or service. Right, sales tax. Collected, withdrawal, right? The bottom line, excise taxes are assessed by the federal and state governments on certain goods and services. They are paid by the merchants that sell them. Excise taxes can be a flat tax amount known as a specific excise tax or a percentage of the cost of the good, known as an ad valorem excise tax. Ad valorem excise tax. They may also be limited only to goods sold within the state of the taxing authority. Businesses often add the cost of an excise tax directly onto the price of the taxed good, so the tax is passed on to the consumer. Consumers may or may not know they are paying the cost of the excise tax on top of the price of the good or service. Some companies are transparent about excise taxes, though, like fuel companies. Next time you go to fill up your gas tank, take a look at the pump. The company may break down how much of the price at the pump goes toward the fuel itself versus how much you pay in taxes. Wow. Well, this is advertisement. Compete risk-free with $100,000 in virtual cash. Put your trading skills to the test with our free stock simulator. Compete with thousands of Investopia traders and trade your way to the top. Submit traders in a virtual environment before you start risking your own money. Practice trading strategies so that when you are ready to enter the real market, you will have the practice you need. So excise. I wonder about the etymology of excise. Right, excise. Cut out, cut off, remove, impose an excise tax. Excise, cut out. Excise, right, cut out. I wonder why it is called cut out, right? Cut out, cut off. Excise, cut off, cut out, excise. Cut off. Okay, excise tax. That was about excise tax. Let's remember that cigarette with per cigarette pack of 20, right? Cigarette pack of 10, cigarette pack of 25, cigarette pack of 40 maybe, but usually it's a cigarette pack of 20 cigarettes. Before the end of the correction window, you pay at the pump. Well, thanks for listening and have a wonderful Sunday. Great Sunday wherever you are. Take care. Bye-bye.